guys, welcome to the review for the Unit 5 test. Let's start with this warm-up. I know that you're not actually going to have a chance to do it unless you pause the video and try it first, which I would encourage you to do. So pause the video and try it. All right, now that you've had a second to try it, let's go over it. We have to combine like terms. So I'm going to start with the first thing, 4x squared. I need to look for any other x squared. So I'm going to go ahead and change this. There we go. So I'm looking here for other terms that are x squared, and I see one right here. Now remember, when you're dealing with different terms, the sign in front of it is always attached to it. So this is 4x squared minus 7x squared. When you're combining like terms, you just add or subtract the numbers and keep the variables the same. So 4 minus 7 is a negative 3x squared. All right, I'm just going to go in the order that it comes, and then I'll write it in standard form afterwards. The next thing I see is a plus 7, so I'm looking for constants. Constants are numbers that don't have a letter. That has an x, that has an x. This is another constant. So 7 plus 6 is 13. I'm going to go ahead and write that down. And then the next thing I see is negative 3x. So I'm looking for other terms that just have the letter x, and I see a plus 8x. So I'm going to deal with the numbers. Negative 3 plus 8 is a positive 5, and then the letter stays the same. Now, this is an okay answer, but this is not in standard form. Standard form says that it has to be from highest exponent down to lowest exponent, and then the constant at the end. So this would be our final answer in standard form. Let me get to the next question. All right, so now some work on keywords or vocab that you need to know. The degree is the highest exponent, so the highest exponent is 2. Name the polynomial based on the number of terms. Remember, terms are separated by plus or minus signs. So I see a minus sign here and a plus sign there. That means there are 1, 2, 3 terms. If there are 3 terms, that is called a trinomial. What are the coefficients? You will definitely see this on your test, so pay close attention. The coefficients are the numbers attached to the letters. So I see a letter here, and the number attached is 4. And then I see a letter here, and the number attached is negative 5. Remember, the sign that's in front of it goes with it. So those are my 2 coefficients. This isn't a coefficient because there's no letter. Coefficients are only the numbers attached to letters. So 4 and negative 5. What is the constant? A constant is a number without a letter. So 11 is our constant because it does not have a letter. What type of graph does this equation make? It is x squared, so that is a parabola. Another way of saying that is you could say it's a quadratic function. For this one, we are subtracting 2 polynomials. Notice the subtraction sign here. That means that we need to distribute that subtraction sign to everything in the back parentheses. So when we distribute that, a negative times a negative becomes a positive. A negative times a negative becomes a positive. And then a negative times a positive is a negative. Really, all we're doing, if you notice, we're just changing the sign. If it's negative, it becomes positive. If it's positive, it becomes negative. And you're only doing it to the back parentheses because that's what you're distributing to. The first parentheses just stays the exact same. I'm just going to write it down, bring it straight down. And now we're going to combine like terms. I have 7x squared, so I'm looking for other x squareds. There aren't any others, so I'm going to go ahead and write that down. Then I see a plus x. Remember, this is actually a 1x. So I'm looking for any other x's, and I also see a plus 2x. 1 plus 2 would give me 3 x's. And since they're positive, I put a plus sign there. Then I see a minus 5, which is a constant. So I'm looking for other constants, and I see another minus 5. Negative 5 minus 5 is going to be a negative 10. And then lastly, I have 2x cubed. I don't have any other x cubed, so I'm just going to write that down. This is an okay answer, but it is not in standard form. So let's put it in standard form from highest exponent, so 2x cubed, And then the 7x squared would come next. You go from highest down to lowest, then the 3x, and then the constant, the number without any x's. So that would be our answer in standard form. All right, again, if you want to pause any of these to try them first, I strongly suggest doing that. But I'm going to keep going. So here we are distributing. So we're going to take our 2x squared and we're going to multiply it by each of everything in the parentheses. So I'm going to do the number times the number. 2 times -4 is -8. And then remember, when you are multiplying exponents, when you multiply with the same base, the base stays the same, and you add your exponents. I'm not going to write that out every time, but that's going to give you 4 x's. So it's x raised to the 4th power. All right, when we distribute here, we have 2x squared times -5x. So I'm going to do the number times the number first. 2 times -5 is -10. And then I have 2 x's here and 1 x there. That's going to give me 3 total x's. So I'm going to have -10 x to the 3rd. And then I distribute over here. 2 times 6 is 12. And then I have x squared, and there's no more x's. So that's just going to stay as x squared. And that is my final answer. I did put a plus sign in front of the 12 because it was positive. So make sure you put that sign there so that you know you have different terms. All right, for this one, we are still going to distribute, but we have to make sure that we distribute the -2y to each of them. And we have to distribute the 4 to each of them. So let's see how that's going to look. When we do -2y times y, that would be -2y squared, because there's a y and another y, so that's 2 y's. When we do -2 times +2, that's going to give us a -4, and then I just have 1 y, so I'm going to put the 1 y there. Now I'm doing 4 times y. That's just going to give me 4 y. Since it's positive, I'm going to put the plus sign in front. And now I'm doing 4 times 2, which is 8, and since it's positive, I'm going to put the plus sign there. And then I do need to go in and combine like terms, so -2y squared, and then this -4y plus 4y, I would combine those and I would get 0 y's. Now you don't need to write in 0 y's, you can just cancel it. So this would be my final answer. If we look at this one, it says, suppose you earned 3x minus $1 on Monday and 5x plus $4 on Tuesday. What were your total earnings? So if we're trying to figure out our total, we're going to take what we earned on Monday and add it to what we earned on Tuesday to get the total. So we're going to take our 3x minus 1 from Monday and our 5x plus 4 from Tuesday, and we're going to add those together. Now, because we're adding, we don't have to distribute and change any signs. We can go straight to combining like terms. So 3x plus 5x will give us 8x. And -1, oh, I should have done a different symbol there. Oh, well. -1 plus 4 will give us a positive 3. Moving right along. Again, you can pause it if you want to try these first. It says to simplify and leave your answer in exponential form. So here we have 11 sevens on top and then 5 sevens on bottom. I'm not going to write this out every single time, but what's going on here is you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 on top, 5 on bottom. And then you can cancel out whatever's the same on top and bottom. And so you're left with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sevens on top. Now the shortcut is if you divide with the same base, the base stays the same and you subtract the exponents. Okay, so if we look at this next one, I'm not going to write it all out, but we have 6 x's, 5 y's, and 2 y's. So it says when we multiply with the same base, the base stays the same and you add the exponents. But something you need to be really careful of, x is not the same base as y. So the only ones that actually have the same base are these. So I don't have to do anything with x to the 6th. I'm just going to write it down. Now for my y's, the base stays the same and I add my exponents. And that is as far as you can simplify that. You can't do anything else because x's and y's are not the same. All right, over here, this is kind of a two-step problem. For the top, we're multiplying with the same base, so the base stays the same, and we add the exponents. 2 plus 4 is 6. I'm just bringing down the x to the third. Now, our second step, we're dividing with the same base. So the base stays the same, and we subtract the exponents. And so our final answer here is going to be x to the third power. If the shortcuts totally confuse you, remember you can write it all out. You have 2 x's here, 4 x's there, so 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. On the bottom you have 3 x's. Cancel out what you can cancel out, and you would see that you would be left with x to the third. All right, over here we are multiplying with the same base. X is our base, so that's what's going to stay the same. And then we're going to add our exponents. 2 plus 3 is 5. The 4 and the 3, those are just numbers. They are not bases. They are not holding up exponents, so we would multiply them. 4 times 3 is 12. Now be really careful. There is going to be an error analysis on the test, and one of the things that you might see is something like this, where it has x squared times x to the fourth, and instead of getting the answer as x to the sixth, one of the errors that's really common might be that they multiply those numbers. That's a really common error. You are not supposed to multiply the exponents, you are supposed to add them. The same thing, another really common error is if you see, I don't know, this. Instead of subtracting, sometimes people will make the mistake and they'll try to divide 6 divided by 3. These are both common errors. Be careful about that. Those are not correct. All right, we want to simplify this. Now notice here, we still have the same base, so we can keep the base the same, and we can still subtract the exponents, but these are just numbers. So we are not going to leave our answer in exponential form. We are actually going to calculate it in our calculator. And I can show you that in a minute. But anything raised to the negative power has to be moved to the bottom to make it positive. And 3 squared is 9. So your final answer here is 1/9. You can just type it in the calculator exactly how it looks, though. You don't have to show all that work. This one, we have 6 5s on top and 6 5s on bottom. All of that's going to cancel, but a lot of people pick the answer 0. This isn't actually 0. If you had 3 divided by 3, that would equal 1. 10 divided by 10 equals 1. Anytime you have the same thing divided by same thing, that will equal 1. So that would be the final answer there. All right, label whether each expression is true or false. So for time's sake, I went ahead and figured out the left side of each of these. This would be x to the 7th. X to the 7th does not equal x to the 12th, so that is false. Here you would get 6 to the 5th. That is not greater than 6 to the 5th, so that would be false. Here we have 4 to the 7th. That is not equal to 4 to the 10th, so that would be false. And down here we have y to the 8th, which is greater than y to the 7th, so that one would be true. So pause this problem if you want to try it first. It says, write an expression in simplest form for the perimeter of the figure. Perimeter means add all sides. So we're going to add up each side. We're going to take this side, x, plus this side, 5x plus 3, plus this side, 3x plus 1, plus this side, 4x minus 2. And then we're going to combine like terms. So I went ahead and combined like terms, and I got 13x plus 2. And then it says, what is the perimeter if x equals 2? Well, you're just going to substitute in a 2 right there. Oops, plus 2. 13 times 2 is 26 plus 2, which would give us 28. Good luck on your test. I hope you guys ace it. If you need help, come see me in live help time.